So, we're not strangers to the 30 Years' War. We actually covered that series by Kings and Generals many months ago, and it was one of my favorite series. I remember that I got into it because I was looking up deadly wars, like through chat forums, history chat forums, and that's when I kind of stumbled across it. And we kind of covered the statistics and the amount of death, like, it it's millions died, and a lot of like German areas and settlements were depopulated. In fact, I think like statistically it's been said something like it exceeded the German death of like World War II and whatnot. So yeah, basically Germany got really messed up, and I like the war because it starts off as like a religious war, right? A dude gets thrown out the window, and then that kind of sets things off between Protestantism and Catholicism. But it's funny because the war switches. Like, eventually that gets resolved, but the war continues because Sweden and friggin' France just wanted to like humble the Habsburgs because they hated the Habsburgs. And yeah, basically the rest of the war is just the Holy Roman Empire, the Habsburgs, getting jumped by France and Sweden. So it's a really wild war with a lot of very interesting characters like Gustavus Adolphus and who's the other guy? Oh yeah, Conde of France. So there's a lot that happens. I think in terms of military aspect, it's definitely marks a decline. It's a big decline of the Spanish Empire. Well, the Spanish Empire was a part of the Habsburgs. The Habsburgs had quite a chokehold on Europe around this time, and Spain was still under its like power. And the Spanish in particular were probably the strongest force in Europe, not only through sea but in land, because they had the Tercio. I say Tercio. I heard some people say Turkio, but I guess the TH is the more I think proper way to pronounce it. Either way, it's a formation of pike and shot warfare, and they were defeated at several big battles by the French, and it kind of marked the decline of the military prowess. Not to say they were completely broken, but it definitely marked a decline in the martial power of the Spanish. So a lot happened in this war, and it's interesting that I had to go out of my way to find it, because I mentioned this in the Kings and Generals video. Like, I had never heard of the war. I mean, I may have heard its name, but I did not know anything about it. Like, I literally had to discover it and go out of my way to watch Kings and Generals video to get an idea of everything that happened. So, yeah, it was, I think just the 17th century as a whole I've come to see is very underrated in history. And, yeah, overall, I'm kind of happy that it's getting a bit more love. And yeah, today, I should probably get to the video. Today, we're looking at Europe's Cataclysm, the 30 Years' War by Epic History. Formerly TV, now just Epic History. And, I'm not letting that go. It's like kind of the joke. It's not really a joke, it's just a fact, but you know what I mean. So yeah, overall, I don't think this is gonna be a series. I think this seems just like a quick overview that he's doing. Or I could be wrong, maybe he'll do a series on it. That'd be really interesting. But, yeah, either way, this is from Epic History, and before I get to the video, if you want to watch this original video from Epic History, the link is down in the description down below. It is the first link you will find. And if you enjoy my content and want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and maybe consider being a YouTube or Patreon member. That would really help me out a lot. Now, with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch Europe's Cataclysm, the 30 Years' War by Epic History.
1618. Europe stands on the cusp of the most destructive war in its history. A 30-year-long cataclysm that will engulf the continent. Rape, slaughter, and rumors of cannibalism will haunt the land. War, starvation, and plague will decimate whole populations. Men, women, children, soldiers and civilians, no one will be spared. In a conflict that still casts a long shadow across European history to the modern day. Our video is sponsored.
Okay, so I've seen more corpses than living men, more ruined houses than standing ones, more places desolate than inhabited. Oh yeah, that perfectly sums up the entire war. And that's the thing though, unlike other wars like the 100 Years' War, which there was times of just like kind of ceasefire or like kind of breaks, the 30 Years' War was one giant like non-stop war. Like there was no 30 years straight of war. Germany got screwed up, dude. Like Holy Roman Empire was, I'm surprised they recovered, like, especially near the end. It's kind of a miracle with all the death and slaughter, because I believe, if I remember correctly, a big aspect of the war is that armies didn't seem to have, like, supply lines like we would think of. Armies had to basically sustain themselves, if I'm remembering what kings and generals explained. So people just went around just looting and taking resources from villages. So, like, that's how the army sustained themselves, which, as you know, leads to rape and burnings and killings. So that probably, I think, was a big part in adding to the troubles of the average German people. So, yeah.
A 100 years after the Protestant Reformation split Christianity into rival camps, Europe is bitterly divided. Many northern rulers have embraced the Protestant teachings inspired by Martin Luther. In the south, most remain solidly Catholic and loyal to the Pope in Rome. Suspicion, unrest, and sectarian violence spread like a virus. In England and Scotland, Protestant King James fears a Catholic resurgence. In France, Catholic authorities are nervous about Protestant subversion. The Protestant Dutch fight desperately for independence from Catholic Spain. But the divisions run deepest in the Holy Roman Empire. This is not a unified realm, but a
yeah, that's the thing. That's a unique thing about the Holy Roman Empire. We've touched upon this a lot. It's basically like this giant, I guess confederation. I'm not sure confederation is the right word, but just this a bunch of different, you know, smaller German kingdoms and states, all technically under the banner of who they elect as emperor, because the emperor actually did get elected. Usually a Habsburg, but you know, we're usually used to the Habsburgs kind of being the emperors from Austria over the Holy Roman Empire. And yeah, there's a lot of, you know, inward division, because again, like, despite technically being under the banner of an empire, there still is a lot of room for independence or individuality, you know? And that's kind of what leads to the inner thing. Like, again, this conflict starts off self-contained within the Holy Roman Empire, but it escalates into being a European-wide struggle.
Patchwork of kingdoms, principalities, and duchies, many of which will one day form the modern state of Germany. Voltaire later quipped, it was neither
yes, the frickin' famous Voltaire. Neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. I mean, he's alright, but like, you know, you can't go a video without talking about the Holy Roman Empire where that quote ain't mentioned, you know?
Holy, Roman, nor an empire. Instead, each mini-state has its own government, but all are overseen by the Holy Roman Emperor. The emperor is a figurehead, elected by 7 powerful princes and archbishops. For centuries, the role has been filled by a member of the Habsburg dynasty, Europe's dominant ruler of vast lands that include Spain and its overseas colonies. The emperors are staunch Catholics, but their Holy Roman Empire is as religiously split as the rest of the continent. Since a treaty of 1555, religious peace has held together under the principle of cuius regio, eius religio, whose realm, whose religion, meaning all subjects must follow the faith of their ruler. But it is unworkable to impose belief from above. Lutheran and Calvinist missionaries compete for converts. Many Catholics are ready to fight to reunify Christendom under the Pope. The Holy Roman Empire is a powder keg, primed to explode.
Yep. I would rather rule over a desert than a country of heretics.
The first sparks flare in Bohemia. The local nobility is religiously diverse and fiercely independent. Here, Bohemian Hussites broke with Rome a century before the Reformation. But Bohemia is under the direct rule of King Ferdinand, a Habsburg and hardline Catholic. He cancels concessions, demolishes non-Catholic churches. These deliberate provocations anger Bohemia's nobles and reformers. In May 1618, they corner 2 of Ferdinand's ministers at Prague Castle, subject them to a summary trial, and throw them and their secretary from a high window.
Yeah, people have often joked, like, you know, this all started because guys got thrown out the window. And that was definitely the spark that set it up, but as you can see, there's a lot of tension before that happens. But that's kind of like, it's kind of like the Ferdinand getting shot, you know, during World War One. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. So, yeah.
The 2 ministers survive the fall. Catholic allies claim angels saved them. Protestant rebels say they landed in a dung heap. One thing is not in doubt. Bohemia is in open rebellion against imperial Catholic rule. The first act of violence in what will soon become the deadliest conflict Europe has ever known. Ferdinand has powerful allies. Duke Maximilian of Bavaria, leader of the Empire's Catholic League. The Duke of Saxony, a Lutheran but whose loyalty has been secured with promises of land. And the might of Habsburg Spain, Europe's greatest power, unwilling to let upheaval in Germany threaten its supply road to the Netherlands. But this imperial faction immediately faces serious threats. The Bohemian rebels besiege Vienna, while a Transylvanian force, supported by the emperor's bitterest enemy, the Ottoman Empire, invades Hungary, torching villages, seizing food, laying waste to the land. The Ottomans hold back from committing their own troops to the invasion force. It's a potent what-if moment from European history.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ottomans didn't get involved because they had a lot of their own issues to deal with. But which is unfortunate for them, because if the Ottomans have had their, like, you know, act together, this would have been, like, the best opportunity ever to jump the Habsburgs. Because, again, the Habsburgs are already getting jumped by everyone else, so... And, like, the Civil War aspect, like, again, but as usual, the Ottomans had their own drama to deal with, so... It is funny though, Transylvania's involvement, there were times where they went to besiege Vienna, but the Transylvanian contingent that he just mentioned, for a few times showed up and then left. Like, it is the weirdest contribution to the entire war. Like, almost like, I don't know, not really prevalent in the long run, but like there, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And exactly the sort of alternate history you can explore in Europa Universalis 5. In August 1619, emboldened by success on the battlefield, the Bohemians depose Ferdinand and replace him with one of their own, and crown him King Frederick. But in a plot twist, the Holy Roman Emperor dies, and Ferdinand is himself elected the new emperor that same month. The Bohemians' local revolt is now an act of treason against imperial authority.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly from the Kings and Generals explanation of it, it's essentially because Ferdinand was kind of, a lot of Protestants feared because he was kind of a no-nonsense, staunch Catholic, and they were afraid of losing a bit of their, you know, ability to be Protestant. So it actually, his election actually escalated the desire of Protestants to not surrender. So yeah.
The tide begins to turn. Ferdinand enlists the help of Catholic Poland, which sends cavalry forces to harass the Transylvanians. They are driven back into Hungary. In November 1620, an elite Imperial and Catholic League force meets the ill-disciplined rebel army at White Mountain outside Prague. The fighting is brief but bloody. In just over an hour, 1,000 Protestant soldiers are slaughtered. The fledgling Bohemian independence movement appears to have been crushed. But the wider conflict is far from over. And soon, the flames of religious war will spread across the continent.
We shall not rest until the princes and estates of the Holy Roman Empire, of both one and the other religion, shall live together in abiding peace. Yeah, funny thing is, Christian got his butt kicked at the moment he joined the war. I remember, I thought he was going to be a huge factor on the Protestant side. He showed up and just got his butt kicked all the way back to Denmark. Like, it actually kind of is a little funny, you know? Like, he almost seems like a game changer, then just did not live up to the hype, unfortunately.
After his victory at White Mountain, the uncompromising Emperor Ferdinand clamps down. Rebel ringleaders are arrested and executed. Severed heads are put on public display. In 1621, the Emperor's avenging forces descend on the Palatinate, the homelands of Bohemia's usurper king. That same year, a truce between Spain and the Dutch expires, and open conflict reignites. It will soon blend into the wider European war between Catholics and Protestants. With Spanish help, Ferdinand's forces spend 3 years crushing all resistance. By the end of 1623, most of Western Germany is under Catholic League occupation. The mostly Protestant lords of northern Germany are alarmed by Catholic armies so close to their borders. In 1625, Christian, King of Denmark and Duke of German-Holstein, declares war on Ferdinand and marches south, a preemptive strike to secure his hold over North Germany.
The odds of getting into the Ivy
Catholic League forces march north to confront the Danes and their allies. They are led by 2 brilliant commanders, Johann Tserclaes, Count of Tilly in the Spanish Netherlands, and Albrecht von Wallenstein, leader of Ferdinand's imperial army in Bohemia.
Yeah, Wallenstein was definitely, like, at least the first parts of the war, kind of the main guy because of his accomplishments, and proved to be, I think, when he was active, the best, under Ferdinand, like, the best general, which makes what happened to him later really shocking. Yeah, there was a lot. He'll cover it, but it shocked me.
Wallenstein is a Bohemian Protestant, but also a notoriously ambitious mercenary commander. Both men are heroes of the victory at White Mountain. For 3 years, the Catholic forces push the Danes out of Germany, while Wallenstein occupies the Baltic coast. The Danish king has no hope of victory. In 1629, he surrenders to the Catholics. That same year, Ferdinand doubles down on Catholic supremacy by publishing the Edict of Restitution, a document that rolls back the spread of Protestantism since 1555. It is an inflammatory...
Yeah, and that kind of goes to show you why so many Protestants fought even harder the moment Ferdinand got elected, because they did not like the idea of this guy. And, yeah. Funny thing is, though, this edict, I think, came back to bite him in the butt, and probably, I think, I mean, granted, he did it at a time where he was dominating, so he definitely thought at the moment, yeah, he had basically won, but, unfortunately, as we know with hindsight, that was not the case. So this edict definitely probably wasn't the best timed with hindsight's knowledge. And yeah, definitely not religiously tolerant. Yeah, I was just reading it.
Move, utterly unacceptable to Protestants. Even loyal Catholics are dismayed. The powerful princes who elect and support the emperor are known as the imperial electors. In 1630, they gather at Regensburg. They dismiss Wallenstein and reduce the army's size, hoping to de-escalate the conflict and contain Ferdinand's destructive instincts. But their measures go too far, leaving northern Germany virtually undefended. The timing could not be worse. A violent storm is brewing in the north, and soon it will descend to wreak a terrible, destructive path through their precious empire.
Yes, The Lion from the North. One of my favorite Sabaton songs, by the way, which is about this man, Gustavus Adolphus, also known as the father of what was the thing? The modern military or something, at least at his time. I forget the official wording, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, basically definitely, I think, helped bring Sweden to its rise with his many genius military reforms, someone that even Napoleon admired. So, as we know, Sweden will go on to be quite the formidable force, I think even into, like, the 17... Wait, no, this is the 17. The 18th century. At least early on. So, until, like, the Great Northern War, and, what happened there. But yeah, so I don't want to hear about neutrality. This is a fight between God and the devil. And that's the thing about religious wars. They definitely, on regular wars enough, but when you throw in religion, that just makes people, like, definitely, especially when everyone thinks they're on the right side, like, making it a holy war definitely escalates things as zeal and zealousness take over, which can be probably a stronger factor than other things, such as, like, other causes for war, I find. It makes people not want to give up even more, which can really escalate things. As we see with this, I think this war is a pretty great example of that, at least at the beginning,
King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden is a militant Lutheran who fears a Habsburg presence on the Baltic Sea. He sails south to Pomerania in July. He swiftly brings several North German states to his side, mostly under threat of force, and his numbers swell to almost 40,000. But one place allied...
You know, that's the thing about Sweden in this war. The Swedish, especially after Gustavus was, you know, spoiler alert, he gets killed, but in this war. But yeah, the Swedish were very vicious and brutal. In fact, especially with their looting and occupation of places, which made a lot of people just not want to be under their rule. You know, because yeah, the Swedish army, while one of definitely the best, was very brutal. In their looting and destruction that they cause, especially once Gustavus goes.
With him willingly, the Protestant city of Magdeburg. The response of the Catholic and Imperial forces, now all commanded by the Count of Tilly, is terrible. In May 1631, Tilly storms Magdeburg. Then, according to the city's mayor, the city was given over to murder, burning, plundering, torture and beatings. Thousands of innocent men, women and children were murdered and slaughtered in all sorts of merciless and wretched ways. By 10 o'clock that night, the entire city, along with its beautiful town hall and all its churches, lay in ashes. Over 20,000 are massacred, almost the entire population.
Yeah, you can see why this war had quite a high German death count, and why certain areas were like depopulated because of like crap like this. And you know, that's war, sadly. We watch so many war videos on this channel that I'm just kind of like, I'm not saying that I'm cool with it, I'm just kind of like accustomed to it now. I'm like, yeah, I'm expecting a lot of murder and like civilian suffering. Like, you know, like, it's sad, but that's just unfortunately war and history. It never changes. So yeah, but poor people, honestly, though.
The senseless slaughter is powerful propaganda for the Protestant cause. Pamphlets and illustrated letters circulate, detailing the horrors and fueling a cycle of violent reprisal. Many Catholics will face a revenge called Magdeburg Mercy. The unluckiest of them are forced to sample the infamous Schwedentrunk, the Swedish drink. Victims have their mouths pried open and their stomachs filled with water, filth and excrement, up to the point of bursting. Sweden.
Oh, ew. I don't, yeah, Kings and Generals did not mention that. I think that goes, but he did mention, obviously, that the Swedish, especially in a time where everyone was brutal, were feared specifically. Like, he called them out specifically, and you could see why with that kind of torture they're implementing. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's disgusting. Dude, just shoot me at that point. If you're gonna kill me, just get it over with, bro. Like, if I had to go, I would want it to be quick, you know?
Intervention unleashes the kaleidoscopic horrors of the 30 Years' War.
War feeds itself, and there goes the... I think that quote perfectly captures this war, because again, like, armies basically sustain themselves, and the best way to do that is just to take resources from other people. Yeah.
17th century armies sweep like locusts across Europe. Most are mercenaries, paid in the plunder they seize from conquered lands. They strip entire regions bare before they move on. Most of these armies are ordered in the Spanish system. It is based on...
the tercio, or terci, or tercio. Look, I don't pronounce things always correctly. I could care less how other people do it. Who am I to judge? But, it's, for those of you who are new to this channel, when it comes to weapons in war, and, like, formations, my favorite is the pike. The pike is my favorite weapon. From the Macedonian phalanx to the the Switzerland, yes, the Swiss square pikes. Sorry, in my head I always say Switzerland and then there's Sweden. I don't know why my head kind of confuses the two when I try to speak. The point is, the Swiss pikemen to the Spanish tercio. The pike, in my opinion, is the greatest weapon, the king of the battlefield, you know, before guns showed up. But, and yeah, it's something that I really love because, again, like, Alexander the Great ruled the world with the pike, the phalanx, and the phalanx was ruled until the Romans showed up, and basically kind of made it, I mean, it fell out of wide use once the Romans conquered the Greeks, but, it's funny because the pike basically goes out of major use and then comes around the medieval / Renaissance era. It just comes back out of nowhere with these formations from the Swiss to the Spanish and basically becomes the king of the battlefield. And, you know, it continues all the way to the Great Northern War when Sweden was, you know, was probably at its most powerful, maybe the most powerful military in Europe. The Swedish used the pike in their Gaupaw strategy, and yeah, overall, basically, yeah, the pike is my favorite weapon. I think it's the king of weapons. Polearms are great, and they're underrated. Like, everyone always glazes the sword in, like, gaming and in fantasy, but I'm like, nah, dude, give me the polearm, give me the pike, you know? I don't know why, I'm just obsessed with pikes. There's just something so cool about a bunch of dudes with these ridiculously large pointy sticks all huddled together and just this wall of unbreakable, like, you know, pike. To me, it's just something I'm obsessed with. And as we know, the Spanish, at their prime, implemented the tercio, and they were the most powerful force in Europe, not only on land, but at sea with this formation, with their pike and shot warfare. So this is definitely an evolution of the pike. And yeah, they rule the battlefield, but unfortunately this is the war that kind of marked a big decline in the formation and in the weapon. So yeah, it's something that makes me sad, because again, as a big pike lover, seeing the downfall of pikes, like, first when the Romans conquered the Macedonians, and then, you know, it does make me sad to see my favorite weapon be bested and then kind of go on the decline. But don't worry, I'm sure the pike will come back someday. Maybe once the nuclear apocalypse happen, and then the world becomes like Mad Max, and if I'm one of the survivors, I'll bring back the pike weapon to humanity. It'll make another comeback, you know what I mean? So, by the way, it's a joke. I hope the nuclear apocalypse never comes. But, yeah, let's get back to the video, shall we?
Around the tercio, a large square formation composed of pikemen and musketeers. They are supplemented by cavalry, used for scouting, harassment, or well-timed charges, and regiments of artillery. Together, muskets can be devastating, but individually they are inaccurate and slow to reload. Musketeers are also vulnerable to fast-moving cavalry and require robust formations of pikemen to defend them. The Spanish system has dominated for a century, but recently things have begun to change. New Dutch-style infantry formations, called battalions, are smaller and less deep, with a larger proportion of firearms. This makes them less durable, but also more flexible, mobile, and capable of firing denser, more deadly volleys. And there is a push to integrate artillery with the rest of the army. Gustavus
Yeah, Gustavus Adolphus, one of his, like, the whole thing is flexibility and speed and on the battlefield, and that's why, you know, for instance, he used lighter artillery cannons compared to his enemies, and the thing is about these lighter artillery cannons is that he could maneuver them and position them quickly throughout the battlefield, like switch their direction and stuff, which made them way more flexible. And the thing, it's kind of like the Roman and Macedonian kind of thing, like, why did the Legion defeat the Phalanx? Well, the Legion, you always hear people say, the Legion was more flexible, it was more adaptable, and that's kind of a big thing with war. Like, the side that can be faster and more flexible on the battlefield usually will have a big advantage and maybe even pull off a win. So, yeah, that you could see why Gustavus Adolphus was, a genius, and why he's called the father of modern military, something like that. I don't know the exact wording, but yeah, he's cool enough that where Napoleon looked up to him. So that's all you need to know. Like, if Napoleon looks up and admires someone, they're a G.
Adolphus is an early adopter and perfects the new system. His aggressive and innovative tactics, with smaller units, more firearms, and light artillery integrated into every regiment, make his army dazzlingly quick, mobile, and lethal for its size. They also win him a reputation as the father of modern warfare, and praise from men like Karl von Clausewitz and Napoleon Bonaparte as one of the greatest military commanders of all time.
Yep.
In the summer of 1631, he seems unstoppable.
This Snow King will go on melting as he comes south. Wow.
In September 1631, the Swedish army of Gustavus Adolphus, bolstered by troops from Saxony, meets Count Tilly near a village called Breitenfeld. With nearly 40,000 on both sides, it is one of the largest battles of the 30 Years' War, and a clash between two of its most celebrated commanders. Tilly's cavalry charges the Swedish right. They are met with devastating fire, and are repulsed 8 times. At the other end of the line, Catholic cavalry routs the Saxons on Gustavus's left flank. But as Catholic forces advance, a gap opens up between them, which Gustavus exploits with a devastating counterattack. Tilly is caught flat-footed. His ranks dissolve and flee, leaving at least 7,000 dead on the field, with almost as many taken prisoner. The Swede and Saxon dead number just over 2,000. Breitenfeld is a crushing victory for Gustavus, and Tilly's first major defeat, a turning point that opens a pathway for the Swedes into the south. At Rain, Tilly tries to stop them, but fails, and the old Catholic general is mortally wounded. Emperor Ferdinand turns to an old ally, Wallenstein. In July 1632, Gustavus has moved north again, to Nuremberg. Wallenstein...
Yeah, Wallenstein, I think, like, at his time, was definitely, up there. Him and Tilly are usually kind of lumped together, though I think Wallenstein was... I would put above Tilly, though not, like, dramatically high, but, like, I think he definitely was the better, just personal opinion, commander, and he was the perfect guy to battle Gustavus Adolphus. Like, this really was a clash between two titans.
Sets up camp nearby. Both sides struggle to find food, and are ravaged by starvation and disease. Wallenstein breaks camp to scour Saxony for supplies. Gustavus follows, and offers battle near the town of Lützen. He needs a quick victory before Wallenstein can be reinforced. But a thick fog spoils his plan. In the chaos, Gustavus leads a cavalry charge, loses his way in the fog, and is killed.
Yep. He gets killed in this battle, which if I remember the telling, it's that he went to like go and check one of his cavalry wings. I think he was on his, at least the way Kings and Generals explained it, he was on his way back, but then like he ran into a courier from you know, the Catholic side. The courier just shoots him in the back. He has a pretty awesome final few last words. He's like, they ask who he is, and he's like, I was the King of Sweden, before he gets shot in the head. So, yeah, definitely, when we were watching that from Kings and Generals, that shocked me. I did not expect Gustavus to die. Because, again, he was, like, basically, like, he did come across as completely unstoppable. And, you know, just kind of like, his death shocked me the most. You know, you can feel free to watch those reactions, because, again, you'll see my raw, naive self when I didn't know anything about the war, and then I'm just shocked every few minutes. It broke me. I was like, why? Like, you know.
On paper, Lützen is another Swedish victory, but the king's death is a grievous blow. The Protestant cause reels from the loss of the Lion of the North, one of history's great military innovators and leaders. If Gustavus Adolphus had walked away from Lützen, history may have been very different. And such mishaps and accidents are sometimes argued.
Dang, that is like 3 ads for the same game that Epic History has done in one video. I'm not used to him doing so much. He usually just does 1 ad at the beginning, but he's sprinkled this game like 3 times. It must be a great game. I gotta check it out. Europa? But, yeah, that's interesting. I'm just not used to it, you know? But then again, like, I very, I'm usually so busy covering other YouTubers at Epic History, yeah.
That winter, Swedish troops are mutinous and desperate. But Wallenstein holds back his forces in the east, near his own estates. In January 1634, Emperor Ferdinand learns Wallenstein has been negotiating his own separate peace. He is declared a traitor, cornered by imperial officers at his headquarters, and he too is killed.
Yeah, another death that shocked me. He basically killed his best general. So at the time, I was like, oh man, he shot himself in the foot. Though the circumstances of him killing Wallenstein definitely make a lot more sense when you add in all the extra information, like Wallenstein's rise, his issues among the other nobility, this thing. Like, there's a lot of reasons where you can kind of get, or at least kind of understand why the emperor did it. But it still is a tragic loss, because Wallenstein was a very great, you know, commander. Basically the main commander who got the most results before his death for the Habsburg cause, so, yeah.
It's the end of an era. 3 giants are dead. Tilly, Gustavus, and now Wallenstein. The Emperor turns his attention to the Swedish scourge. 33,000 imperial troops move into Bavaria. 26,000 Swedes meet them in pitched battle at Nördlingen.
It is funny what you'd think that after the death of Gustavus Adolphus, that the Swedish cause would kind of end. They'd be like, well, we lost our king, we should probably go home, and like, that's what I thought they would do. Because that's usually what happens in war. Like, once they lose, like, their king or stuff, usually, you know, they need to go back to their homeland and stuff. No, the Swedish literally just stay and they continue the war on their, they basically continue without Gustavus. And it's a testament that Gustavus created such an effective army, that it continued well on its own without him. I mean, obviously with him around, it probably would have been even better, but it was so, the Swedish army was so efficient that it could literally continue when he's dead, and they did continue the war and win, you know. So that goes to show you, man, like, man, create an army so great it can function without you.
Without their totemic leader, the Swedes stumble to disaster. They lose half their army, a potentially fatal blow. But it draws a new player into the fight. France.
This is the funniest thing. So, the French, right? They are a fellow Catholic nation, but they don't care about being with a fellow Catholic nation. They hate the Habsburgs. So they joined the war on the Protestant side to just stick it to the Habsburgs. It's the funniest thing ever. Granted, there's a lot of more practical reasons. For ones, like, France was surrounded by the Habsburgs, not only in Germany, but here in the peninsula, in Spain. The Habsburgs have, at Italy, they're all over the place. So France is surrounded. And so a practical reason, obviously, not only because they have a rivalry with each other, but because France wanted to limit them because they felt isolated and surrounded, which makes perfect sense. But it's still funny to me because, you know, like, they hate the Habsburgs so much, they just want to jump in, they don't care. And that kind of that's where this is a big point of where the religious aspect that dominated the first phase of the war ends. Like, it's no longer really Protestants and Catholics. It's now just France and Sweden wanting to beat up the Habsburgs because they hate them. And they want to limit their power. That's literally what the second phase of the war is. It's funny. Like, yeah, France didn't have to get involved, but they did. It really reminds me of the Italian Wars. The Italian Wars is another situation where the French throw themselves in a conflict, like, you know, what was going on in Italy, and then just make themselves the focal point of that conflict. And that conflict was kind of really reminiscent, because near the end of the Italian Wars, that's where the Habsburgs rose, where they took Italy, at least the lower parts of it, and they defeated the French. So it's kind of like a reverse, like, you know, of that. So, yeah. The interests of a state and the interests of religion are two entirely different things.
1635. War has raged for 17 years. Hundreds of German villages lie in ruins. Food shortages are chronic. Reports of cannibalism flourish. Besieged soldiers eating dead comrades. Women devouring their own children.
Oh my god.
Years of pillaging, banditry, and warfare have forced people everywhere into desperation and despair. The anti-imperial forces are in disarray. Emperor Ferdinand offers a way out. He swears to halt his assault on Protestantism. A general amnesty is proclaimed. Alliances with foreign powers forbidden. Protestant princes flock to accept the terms. But the war does not end. A powerful new player will see to that.
Again, the Holy Roman Empire, he ends the religious aspect of the war, which everything began with. The Holy Roman Empire back on one page, and then it just becomes the Empire versus France and Sweden. Like, it's the funniest switch up, in my opinion, because it's just like, alright, this isn't about religion. This is just, again, they really wanted to humble these guys. And it's just like, you know, I don't know, I find it funny.
Though Catholic, France is encircled by Habsburg domains, a grave strategic threat. Cardinal Richelieu, France's ruthlessly pragmatic chief minister, has bankrolled anti-Habsburg forces for years. He now commits to open conflict and declares war on Spain. But Richelieu immediately faces a crisis. The Rhine Valley is secured by France's German allies, but Spanish forces push into France from the north and east. They get within 70 miles of Paris before they are repelled. Meanwhile, the Swedish army is in a dismal state, unpaid, badly supplied, and mutinous. But French money and fresh reinforcements allow them to fight on. And then, another bolt out of the blue. In February 1637, Ferdinand II, the man whose intransigence threw Europe into war, dies aged 58. His son and successor, Ferdinand III, is capable, level-headed, and more flexible. But he lacks his father's ruthlessness and is caught off guard by renewed Swedish energy. Johan Barner, the aggressive Swedish commander-in-chief, conducts a series of audacious campaigns and wins upset victories at Wittstock and Chemnitz. But his supply lines cannot support a sustained advance, and each time he is forced to withdraw. Then he, too, dies of illness in May 1641. The following year, his successors once again meet the Imperials at Breitenfeld and win another crushing victory. The Swedes entrench themselves in Saxony, near the Habsburg heartlands. 1643 will prove a pivotal year. In May, 21-year-old Louis de Bourbon, Duke of Enghien, smashes a Spanish army at Rocroi. It is one of France's...
Yeah, Louis. He's also called Conde, so when I'm talking about Conde, I'm talking about him. But yeah, Rocroi, I think it's probably maybe the most famous of the battles of the 30 Years' War, in which he managed to defeat, you know, a Spanish tercio. And it really does, like, there's a famous painting of the tercio's final stand that you may have seen. I'm not sure if he's going to show it or not, but it's a really famous painting.
His greatest military victories, and secures its northern border from the Spanish threat. The French...
Yeah, the thing is about Conde, he literally had plot armor. Like, when God was writing this plot line, he gave all the plot armor to Conde, because there's a lot of times Conde's entire strategy kind of revolved around being very aggressive, very upfront, relying on the, as he called it, the French fury, to just attack his enemies head on, and just overwhelm them with pure strength, which... yeah, as you would imagine, would cause a lot of casualties, but despite that, he won, and it always worked out for him. Like, the man had plot armor, the likes I haven't seen since we've covered, like, Julius Caesar or Alexander the Great. Like, again, God gave him all the plot armor for the war. He was definitely God's favorite character when he was writing this plot. But, you know, so, yeah.
Then move into southern Germany, but their advance grinds to a halt at Tuttlingen, thanks to the efforts of the steely Bavarian commander Franz von Mercy. That same autumn, France's uneasy alliance with the Swedes faces crisis as the Swedish army marches north to invade Denmark. It is an opportunistic land grab by the government in Stockholm, spurred on by a more hopeful development. Peace talks have begun in the Westphalian towns of Osnabrück and Münster. Everyone wants peace, but all seek a strong bargaining position, ensuring talks and the war will drag on for 5 more years. Southwestern Germany is ripped apart by clashing armies, until Mercy is killed at Allerheim, along with 9,000 other casualties.
Mercy's death is the funniest thing ever to me. And like, it's also super sad, because if you know the battle, essentially, he does everything right? Conde throws a bunch of guys at him, and he, like, repels them, and, like, almost decimates Conde's entire center. And then, like, as he's about to have his big counterattack and defeat Conde, a random cannon from the French fires and kills him. So Mercy does everything right, and still loses. It is so tragic. Like, again, the Habsburgs' luck. The Habsburgs Empire, I think, might be one of the most cursed empires, because yes, they did achieve great heights, but man, did these guys have some of the worst luck I've ever seen of any empire. It, like, reminds me of, like, the Byzantine Empire in terms of bad luck. And, yeah, this is one of those instances where Conde's plot armor just kind of shone through. And I'm joking around, I'm calling it plot armor and stuff, but you know what I mean. It's true, I don't know what else to call it. Like, the dude was divinely protected.
The road to...
And that's not to take away his actual skill. I know he was a skilled commander, but yeah, definitely you do see in battles like this where, you know, he's just throwing people at them. It's like, it's not like a lot of, it's nothing flashy, it's just straight up brute force, but hey, it works, so.
Bavaria lies open, but the French can't take full advantage. Victory has crippled their army.
Man, literally suffering from success. There is no instance of a country having benefited from a prolonged warfare. Sun Tzu, The Art of War.
Parents of children who play Roblox.
1645. The Swedes have returned to Saxony. Pushing south, they almost reach Vienna. But with too few men to take the city, they swing north to loot Moravia and fall back. By 1646, the French have regathered their strength and march against Bavaria. A Swedish force joins them and maneuvers past Emperor Ferdinand's main army, leaving Bavaria virtually undefended. To save his duchy, Bavaria's Duke Maximilian, one of the few leaders in place since 1618, offers peace, only to rejoin the war a few months later. The French and Swedes have had enough and decide on a joint decisive blow. In May 1648, the last imperial field army is shattered at Zumarshausen. The remnants fall back into the far south, leaving Bavaria's countryside exposed to plunder, pillaging, and wanton violence. While the remains of the Bavarian and Imperial armies hold up a desperate defense, a separate Swedish force marches south from Saxony and reaches Prague. In a twist of fate, they capture Yaroslav Borgita, one of the men thrown from the castle window 30 years before. But the Swedes can't take the city. Both sides are exhausted, down to their last reserves of stores and energy. Then, in early November, momentous news arrives. Peace. After 5 years of discussion in Westphalia, conditions have finally been set. The terms: Dutch independence from Spain, along with that of Switzerland, one of few imperial realms that has managed to stay neutral in the war. Greater religious tolerance in Germany. There is to be no forced conversion of subjects, except in the lands under direct Habsburg rule, and territorial concessions to the major anti-Habsburg powers. France receives Alsace, while Sweden gains Western Pomerania and 3 important German ports. After 30 years of war, it is a peace everyone can live with.
Yeah, the war weariness must have kicked in hard, dude. 30 years of continuous war. Holy crap, but yeah. It was a nightmare for the German people, dude. They say that a terrible war is now over, but it still doesn't feel like peace. Everywhere there is jealousy, hate, and worse things. The war has taught us such. Yep.
The 30 Years' War was a disaster unprecedented in Europe's history. A local revolt over religious rights that reignited ancient rivalries and fed on personal ambitions until nearly all Europe found itself at war. An estimated 5 to 8 million died, most from famine and disease. The hardest hit areas lost nearly 2/3 of their inhabitants. 1/5 of all Germans perished, a much larger share than in either World War.
Insane.
Even after the Peace of Westphalia, Spain and France fought on for 11 more years. The Holy Roman Empire, though weakened, survived for about another 150 years, finally dissolved in 1806 during the Napoleonic Wars. The Treaty of Westphalia is often viewed as a turning point in world history. The first modern secular international peace conference, and a major step toward the rise of Europe's nation-states. Historians continue to debate Westphalia's importance, but one thing is not in doubt. The 30 Years' War cast a long and terrible shadow. For 300 years, it remained a terrifying, cautionary tale of how one small act of violent resistance might spiral into a senselessly destructive total war. A warning that was, ultimately, unheeded.
Yep, history repeats, unfortunately. We never learn. Alright, so, man, he's really pushing this game. I'm gonna check it out. But, yeah, I'm gonna end the video right here. I think he's done. But, overall, I'm really happy that he covered this war, because it's actually one of my favorite wars that we have covered on this channel. You know, with kings in general, so any more 30 Years War content is always welcomed, in my humble opinion. And I'm really happy that, you know, he did. So, overall, yeah, guys, I'm gonna end the video right here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.